This is the Metal Bar, and we are worldwide, global, going about as far around the globe as you can go before you start coming back all the way up to Norway. And Einar joins us from Wardruna. Einar, hello, how are you?
Pleasure to meet you, sir. I'm good.
Great to hear, man. Great to hear. And we're looking forward to having you down in this part of the world. I don't believe you've been to New Zealand before, have you?
Not not professionally, but actually about 25 years ago, I traveled New Zealand for about 6 weeks actually.
Ah,
So it's a fantastic country, and I can't wait to come back. To be
oh,
honest, and
yeah.
extra special to be able to bring my art down there as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
special.
yeah, very special. What have you got? Memories of that time you were here? What was that? 99, I guess. In terms of where
Yeah,
you went, what you
2000.
saw.
Basically, I was predominantly on the Northern Island.
Hmm.
Traveled a lot around, camped, stayed in marais, in various places. My brother, he was down there. He lived there for about a year, doing building traditional Maori canoes
Oh
or,
yeah,
or a catamaran. So that was the initial occasion. But yeah, stunning nature, beautiful forests. Like the kauri tree forests, and yeah, no, lots of good memories.
yeah, excellent, man, excellent. Do you have? I guess in a way, looking at your journey, I've done a bit of reading for this interview. The way that you're in touch with, I guess, the roots of your ancestors. And did you see
Mm,
that reflected when you were down here in the Maori culture?
absolutely. I I would actually go as far as my meeting with. I was lucky enough to be welcomed in several marais, and partook in quite a few ceremonies, and yeah, got to learn a bit as well. And I have to be honest, and I think I found a little bit of what I was missing in my own tradition, in a way, and that was I would say a big part um, of like finally starting to work with Wardruna as well. My meeting with the Maoris sort of made me see yeah, basically what I was missing, because of course, even though yeah, the, a lot more is preserved, there are so many similarities between a lot of these old cultures, and uh, uh, yeah, so when you um, yeah, so encountering nature traditions that have a closer bond to this was really inspiring for me.
Yeah, because I look at the albums that you've done and the subject matter and things, and I know it comes back to the traditions of the original Nordic peoples, right, and their beliefs and things like that. But it also has, and I guess this ties in, but from a modern point of view, you look at it and you think it has ties to maybe savage lands. It's very much about saving the land and saving the environment and being and trying to work better with the environment than what people are now.
Yeah, in a way, definitely seeking connection, seeking uh, yeah, these animist ideas that nature is something sacred, something we're part of, something we should be the caretakers of, in a way, or at least live in alignment with, not only use and abuse, and leave it in a worse state for our children and their children. And I believe that implementing just such a simple idea that nature is something sacred, that's what we need to teach our children. So yeah, in a nutshell, my music is has always been about nature, and our relation to it in various forms. A lot of people think it's about like Vikings and stuff like that, but it's really not. It's the stuff that created the traditions in the Viking Age, perhaps, or you see traces of it there, but it's something that is much older.
Well, yeah, I know you've done work with the Vikings show, right? With
Yes.
for the soundtrack and then. So I'm interested to ask you about this because, you know, for a long time when Walking Dead came out, everything was a fucking zombie movie, right? Or a zombie TV show.
Yeah.
And then Vikings came out, and then all of a sudden everything was Vikings. I mean, and some of it was better than others, and some of it was nowhere near close. I mean, where are you on that? And that, I guess, in a way, I mean, if this happened to a Polynesian culture or an African culture or an Asian culture, we might call it, you know, that people are what's the word? They're misrepresenting it by taking on what they want out of it and then doing something different with it, right? Where are you on that?
Well, I think I think the whole wave of Viking Age interest has its both positive sides and negative sides. You know, there are always those who are in it just because it's hype, both on the audience side as well as the artistic side in all sorts of ways, and I guess that's a natural thing. And once the wave settles down, yeah, you'll see them both. And in terms of Norse history and traditions, I think one of the positive sides with this massive interest that came is that because people here in the north have been a bit scared of acknowledging that part of our history because it was very much misrepresented and misused during the Second World War by the Nazis. So it has been a little bit contaminated in a way. So you can say that this massive interest sort of helped us take it back a little bit. So I would say that's the positive note, at least. So, but I don't know. I guess that TV show, you know, it's about entertainment predominantly, and they helped illuminate and perhaps sort of mellow out some of the stereotypes regarding Viking Age. At the same time, they probably created a bunch of new stereotypes as well. So I don't know. It all evens out in the end.
When did I know that you obviously you haven't always done this sort of music, right? You played drums in Gorgoroth for a while, but you were in black metal and things. So when did you first get the interest for the music that you were doing now, and when did you first sort of discover those roots?
Well, my interest for these subjects like history and roots and tradition, that's something I've had since I was quite young. As a kid, I was exposed to it quite a bit. Also musically, like there was a lot of metal music in my home, but also like traditional music and classical music and historical music. So, but I guess when I was, I started having the vision of what became Wardruna. That was like when I was 16, 17 years old or something. And then I guess I started the first recordings for Wardruna when I was 22, I believe, or 23. So, and you know, when I played in Gorgoroth and these other metal bands, at that point, the metal music was out of my system way before that. It wasn't, so that wasn't like a personal thing for me. And I guess the need to do something that was more in line with my own personal interest and passion became more and more important. So, so that's how it started.
Yeah, I mean, because famously, you know, we know about the church burnings in your part of the world and things like this, and for a lot of people, it's a headline, you know, and they react to the headline. But really,
exactly.
the Nordic people were colonized as much as the Maori people were colonized, or anybody else was colonized, right? Because all your traditions and roots were cast aside, and they built churches on the sites of your temples and things like that. So you lost a lot of that connection.
Yeah,
so there's a lot deeper than just burning churches because you hate Christianity or whatever it is.
No, it was as you say, it's more complicated than just an act of aggression. It has a long history, and of course there is the implementation of Christianity when that came about. I would say more or less wherever it came about, it wasn't exactly a grassroots movement. It was something that came from the top, and of course that creates a lot of conflict and trauma.
In a way, what you're doing with your music is you're reclaiming that heritage, right? And you're also educating other people, whether they be Nordic or from other places, about what the true people of that region are and their beliefs.
Yeah, in a way, but at the same time, I don't like preaching, and I don't like. I'm not an activist in that sense, because I strongly believe that, at least for me, it's more important to focus on the things that I am for rather than everything that I'm against. So I take things from the past. There are many things from the past that definitely belong in the past. At the same time, there are so many things from these nature-based traditions that still resonate, that still carry the same relevance as they did thousands of years ago. They are timeless. They are as timeless as they are universal. And those things I want to give voice to, because they have a place here. So I give voice to it. I throw it out like questions rather than serving truths, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, it's interesting the way you said that, we're finding your voice for it, because I did want to ask you, obviously, you started your life as a musician, as a drummer, but now you're very much known as a vocalist. So when did you really find your voice?
I think during the it took a while, even still, like into working with Wardruna. It definitely took a while. I guess when I started doing, because I was invited to do lectures and talk about what I did, and then I decided to start doing like acoustic song versions of the songs, like with only voice and a lyre, for instance. And I guess in that process I started understanding more, and finding my voice. I enjoyed singing before, but I don't know, something happened during that process. So it's basically something I've just grown into.
Yeah, I mean, because it's interesting, not only that, but you talk about, you know, listening to a lot of classical music as a youngster, because you listen to your music and the way it's composed and the way it's put together, it almost feels classical, in that there are movements within each song, you know, in that way it kind of almost feels classical.
I understand. And it doesn't follow, you know, this verse refrain kind of structure. It lives its own life. I try to let the songs go where they want to go rather than me forcing them into a shape. So there are definitely elements that you see in classical music, how things are woven together, and it's very this, and of course also the soundscape it's very visual.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think it's perfect example is the theme song or the theme music, you know, from the Vikings. I mean, you listen to one of your albums and it takes you, maybe not to that show, but you know, it takes you to the fields, or it takes you wherever it does capture, it does bring images to mind. I was going to ask you too about the new album, which is obviously out January 24 in this part of the world. Wardruna, which is about the bear, the she bear, and the and that again ties into what we talked about earlier about Mother Earth, I guess, in a way. In terms of your writing, when you get inspired to write, how much of what you're writing is coming from your experience in living today as a Norseman versus the traditions and the old beliefs?
It very much depends on what I'm working with, but in this setting, the more I read about the traditions, about the man-bear relation, the more I read about the bear itself, like from a scientific point of view, the more I realized that this album needed to have this contemporary focus, to be here and now, to be about the bear itself, because it doesn't need our cultural ornamentation to be its own powerful, beautiful self in a way. So, and also, you know, just seeing how the rhythm of the bear sort of encompasses the whole cycle of life. It's easy to understand why there are so many traditions, myths, star signs, you know, about this bear. Wherever there are bears on this planet, you see them. You see them as teachers. You see them as yes, the caretakers of
like
the woodlands. Yeah, the guardians. So I'd rather stay here and contemplate on what it is that created these totemic myths in the first place, rather than just regurgitating the past. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, it all depends on what it is I'm working with. But for this album, it is basically just giving voice to the bear itself, and then of course I weave into it some parts of the traditional side as well, but they are more in the background and more supporting it.
Yeah, all right. Einar with us from Wardruna.